I'm Assemblyman Phil Ramos, and I want to thank all the press for coming out today. And quiero darle las gracias a todo el mundo que salió hoy. I'm going to be speaking primarily in English because I know the English-speaking press is here, and I want to make sure that that the message gets out there outside of the Hispanic community. I stand here to express my collective outrage with our community on Long Island, with the Hispanic community, at what has happened here in Freeport. I stand here to express my collective outrage together with the empowering young professionals and other members of our community here who have come out to express their respective outrage also at what has happened here. A young man of 25 years old, Jorge Soto, was killed in a boat accident in Freeport, in an area where there was a 5-mile-an-hour limit. The boat that hit his boat, the victim's boat, split Jorge's boat in half, proving right there that the velocity and speed at which he was traveling was reckless, and that this, in fact, is a reckless homicide. What troubles me more than anything else is that the police have conducted what is called, in police jargon, a negative investigation. And that is not to prove somebody guilty, it's to prove somebody innocent. And in this case, the perpetrator here was given every deference, and the victims here were given no deference, no sympathy, no compassion, no humanity. Today, and it's been how many days so far?
It was August 1st.
14 days have passed since this homicide. No police officer has come to the family and sat down with the parents, not even to say, I'm sorry about your loss. They have not, on the day of this or since then, come to them and said, we're sorry for your loss. This is what we're going to do. We are going to investigate this. This is who did this. This is what you could expect. It might take this long to investigate. Maybe we won't give you a police report right now. We'll give it to you at the end. Here is my phone number. Any basic courtesy that anybody with warm blood running through their veins would give any parents who have just lost their son. The police department in Nassau County, police officers who are involved in this, I don't want to say it's all police officers, the ones who were involved in this, could not find the humanity to give that basic deference to the parents and not even give them justice, because this was a crime. Remember, in order to arrest somebody for a crime, you don't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt. All you need is probable cause. If the speed limit was 5 miles an hour and the velocity of his boat was enough to split another boat in half, that's prima facie evidence right there that this was a reckless homicide, and enough to treat it as such and let a grand jury decide the rest. Let the district attorney put the case together. It's so sad. I ask anybody out there, whether you're Hispanic or not, to think about your family. Think about if you lost a son and the police don't even visit you, the police don't even notify you, you have to search for answers. The parents of this victim did not even know. Excuse me 1 second. You okay? Siéntate.
We can take her inside.
Okay. Okay. As you can see, this is such a traumatic situation. And I ask any parent, look at this family here passing out over the trauma. They are up at night staring at that ceiling in the dark every night, wondering what the answers are, because they can't get them from the police department. A simple answer. They asked for the police report. The police department said that was over the phone. Once they found out what department's handling this, because nobody even gave their card, nobody did anything. They went to the Freeport Police Department. Freeport Police Department told them to go to Nassau County. They called Nassau County. Nassau County said, we're not going to give you a copy of the report. And they said, why? They said, because we have a lot more investigation to do. We have other people to interview. And they said, okay, why wasn't this man arrested on day one? They said, because we feel this is just an accident. That begs the question. If you have so much more investigation to do and you can't hand over a report, how did you reach a conclusion beforehand, before you've interviewed those people, that this is just an accident? How on earth, why are these people, why are the police officers in this case, why are they twisting themselves into a pretzel to try and defend the Caucasian perpetrator, but the Hispanic victim, they're treated with such indifference and their family? The police department would not divulge the name of the perpetrator. And they said that the reason they didn't divulge the name is because it's an ongoing investigation. I called up the commissioner, I spoke to the chief of detectives, Farrow, and I asked him that question. Why are you not giving the name? And he said, because we don't want to compromise the investigation. Well, my friends, he got the wrong Puerto Rican assemblyman on the right day, because I did 20 years as a police officer. And I will tell you that giving the name of the perpetrator in this case would not compromise any investigation. The man knows he killed somebody. He is not a fugitive of justice that if he finds out they're looking at him, he's going to take off. He has a home, he has a boat, he has roots here. The police department has to twist themselves into a pretzel to defend this guy. But they told the news that the victim was undocumented. They gave his name. They had no problem with that. Yet the difference in which they treated the Caucasian perpetrator was totally different. We are calling for justice. We are calling for the police department to right a wrong. When I spoke to the chief, I spoke to him like a gentleman, as a fellow police officer. And he assured me, look, if it wasn't handled that right, we'll correct it. Tomorrow, my officers will do what they have to do with the family. When tomorrow came, I asked them, did the officers come by and talk to you? No. An officer called and repeated that he would not give us the police report and that he would not divulge the name. And he also repeated that, in his opinion, this was just an accident. We ask any reasonable person watching this to ask the question, why is the police department twisting themselves into a pretzel to try and defend the Caucasian perpetrator of this crime? We suspect he has some ties to law enforcement. In this, I'm asking the press to please investigate. We have the name of and I'm going to divulge it right now. We found through other channels. The man's name is Jorge Schwartz. That is who did this. Jorge Schwartz is the one who crashed into the other boat and killed Jorge Soto. I asked the press to find out the connections to law enforcement. I asked the press to try and find the connection maybe to politics. This is at such a level that I don't even think it's just a matter of white privilege. I think it's a matter of corruption, because they are going through lengths that are unbelievable, unbelievably cruel to a family. It's an insult to our community, the communities of color. The police departments keep talking about how they believe all lives matter. Do you really think, had they not been Hispanic, that any of you watching this program right now, do you really think the police officers, if your family member died, would not come to your house and at least talk to you? Express their condolences? Conveniently, we have a police department who's trying to find all ways to defend this man. So we are seeking justice. We are asking the police department to sit with the family personally. Now, I want to tell you something, because I was a cop, and I'm going to tell you and preempt their excuses. If they try and blame the COVID virus for not visiting this family, then you need to ask the question, well, why did you visit the perpetrator face to face? But you can't visit a grieving family who has lost the object of their love. It's just totally outrageous. So we are asking for justice, and we are asking for justice now. Queremos justicia, y queremos justicia ahora. ¿Qué es lo que queremos?
Justicia.
¿Y cuándo lo queremos?
Ahora.
What do we want?
Justice.
And when do we want it?
Now.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to introduce you to my partner who helped set this up, a press conference up, somebody who's been out there for the community whenever they need them, from empowering young professionals, Luis Mendez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luis Mendez. I'm one of the founders of Empowering Young Professionals and one of the founders of America's Islamic Radio and El Villano Radio. I'm a former deputy director of the Nassau County Office of Minority Affairs, and I want you to understand why I'm saying that title. The Office of Minority Affairs was created to ensure that the diverse communities of the county have the ability to understand, communicate, and receive the same delivery of services that everyone else is entitled to. I happen to be Salvadorian American, just like the victims. I came here 39 years ago. I want the media to know that 39 years ago, there wasn't as many Salvadorians as there are now. 192,000 Latinos live in the county of Nassau. And one of the things that is important for you to understand that while this investigation is happening, there was a Nassau County marked police vehicle for 4 days parked in front of the victim's house without any conversation between the police and the families. More importantly, the families were intimidated. And we have to know something very profound. The reason why my parents brought me from El Salvador to New York is to flee the prosecution from police and government in El Salvador. This family feels fear after finding freedom coming to America. Now they find the fear in the form of the Nassau County Police Department and their intimidation tactics and the lack of professionalism. By parking a vehicle for 4 days in a jurisdiction that's not theirs, which is the village of Freeport, and intimidating the family. That's not nice. That's not bueno. You know why that's not bueno? Because they're the victims and they lost a 25-year-old son. I have a 26-year-old. And I could not fathom life without him, especially in a tragic situation where the perpetrator is going free, while the family is castigated to live the rest of their lives without a son. And by the way, there's not just one victim here. There's a female that lost a leg, a foot, I think. And then there's others that are still in the hospital, and we want justice for them. And let me say this to the Nassau County Police Department, an entity that I respect and I fund as a taxpayer of 39 years here in the county of Nassau. It's not the entire county police department that's doing this. It is a few individuals that decided that this investigation was going to be done in a manner that would benefit someone else other than the victim. Now, I'm going to leave you with this question. If the victim was a white man or female and the perpetrator was Latino, do you think the treatment would have been the same way? I don't think so. And so I ask for justice, and I thank the media for being here, because without you, without shining a light on this issue, without Phil Ramos, the Deputy Speaker of the State Assembly, coming out and putting this press conference together, this would have been washed under the rug and kept there, and everything would have been business as usual. We are not allowing anyone to make this family a sample of wrong policing and wrong investigation. We want this to be the righteousness that the police department of Nassau County represents. I know a whole bunch of officers. I have trained them as an ethnic sensitivity trainer at the Nassau County Police Academy. They are my friends. Off the record, they have told me it's not right what's happening to the families. Well, it's time to make it right publicly. What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you. I want to reiterate something Luis just said. And that is that a police car from Nassau County Police Department has been parked for 4 days in front of the victim's family, outside of the jurisdiction. Now, if these were good intentions, obviously the family is calling out the police department. This is not the first time they've done it. And if the intentions of the Nassau County Police Department were good, do you think a basic courtesy of a phone call to the family to tell them, well, we're sitting in front of your house for security. We're here to protect you. We know there's a lot of interest here. Maybe the press is coming around your house. Maybe you need some privacy. Maybe something. Zero explanation. Zero explanation. Just police cars every shift parked in front of the family's house there. With zero explanation, not an iota of consideration. Now, you know, as Luis said, there are many good cops, and whenever these things happen, whenever there are unjust killings or anything like that, we always hear the police officers say, you know, most cops are good. It's just a few bad apples. It's just a few bad apples, and we shouldn't be blamed for that. And you know what? It's true. There are many good police officers. But if a police officer sees an atrocity happen, if a police officer sees negligence in the treatment of people in the public, of parents, if a police officer sees police abuse and does nothing and says nothing and doesn't intervene, I take them off the list of good police officers. They have an absolute duty to do what is right and what is humane. At this time, I want to introduce the mother of the victim, a woman who I can't imagine the pain that she is going through. I'd like to introduce Señora Rosa Monge.
Mi nombre es Rosa Monge, soy la mamá. Soy la mamá de Jorge Soto. Y en este momento yo vengo a exigir, porque creo que es mi derecho, exigir justicia para mi hijo. Que así como hay justicia para todos, también tiene que haber para mi hijo.
I am here to ask for justice for my son. As a mother, just like the way there's justice for everybody else, I am begging and asking and demanding justice for my son.
En esta tarde quiero decirle a la policía que se ponga la mano en el corazón.
I want to ask the Nassau County Police Department to put their hand in their heart
Y que entreguen al culpable, porque sé que ellos los conocen el nombre, que ellos saben quién es.
and release the name of the perpetrator, because they know who that person is.
Quiero que la memoria de mi hijo jamás sea olvidada. Quiero que lo que a mi hijo le pasó no lo olvide nadie. Y yo quiero que el parque en donde mi hijo perdió la vida lleve su nombre, que sea un recordatorio para toda la comunidad latina que hay justicia, que va a haber justicia para mi hijo, que hayan regulaciones en ese lugar, porque no es justo. Nosotros hemos estado asistiendo a ese lugar y aún estamos viendo los botes corriendo a muy alta velocidad.
This is an important component. I want no one to forget the name of my son. More importantly, when justice is served, you will remember my son. I want the park to be named after my son, and I want regulations to be passed, because while we were there for a service this past weekend, we observed, we witnessed boats traveling at a fast rate of speed with no enforcement.
Quiero decirles que agradezco a todos los medios de comunicación que se han hecho presentes, que agradezco a todas las personas que me están acompañando en mi dolor, y que sé que si ustedes me apoyan, pero principalmente Dios, se hará justicia. Yo veré la cara de esta persona y lo veré tras las rejas, porque ese es mi más grande anhelo, que él pague lo que le hizo a mi bebé.
I want this man to pay for what he did to my baby. I want to thank the media for being here. Without you, this voice would not be as loud, and I want to see the perpetrator one day behind jail as he should be. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to introduce Jose Soto, who is the father of the victim.
Buenas tardes a todos los medios de comunicación que hacen acto de presencia en esta tarde para acompañarnos en nuestro dolor, y muchas gracias, porque sé que esta información será difundida a nivel nacional y pues todo el mundo se dará cuenta de lo que está pasando en este momento.
I want to thank the media for being here. Because of them, people will find out what happened to my son.
Quiero agradecerle realmente a todos que me acompañan en este dolor y solicitar a la policía, aunque no una exigencia, pero sí por lo menos una solicitud a la policía de Nassau, para que nos entregue información de la persona responsable de la muerte de mi hijo.
I want to beg instead of demand. I want to beg the Nassau County Police Department to give us the information of the perpetrator that killed my son.
Porque es fácil para la policía de Nueva York investigar a las víctimas. Ellos fácilmente pudieron obtener la documentación de todas las personas que iban en el bote agredido. Ellos saben dónde vive y quiénes son. Pero desgraciadamente, aunque platicaron con el agresor, ellos no tienen información hasta este momento, o no la quieren dar, o la están escondiendo por alguna razón. A las víctimas, ellos les tomaron pruebas de alcohol, les tomaron pruebas de droga, pero no sabemos nada qué hicieron con el que provocó la muerte de mi hijo.
I want to demand as to why we the victims got tested for alcohol and drugs, and how they were asked for IDs and their names were written, and the police department released some of those names, and now they cannot find themselves to release the name of the perpetrator. We want to know why they can find out our information and release it, and not release the information of the perpetrator. And whether or not he was tested for drugs or alcohol.
A tal grado de la investigación de la policía que nosotros hemos observado frente a nuestra casa, donde vivimos en la ELM Street, en la casa de enfrente, la casa número 28, ahí vive un policía retirado, y él ha puesto muchas cámaras para vigilarnos a nosotros, para ver nuestros movimientos. ¿Por qué no lo hace con el que mató a mi hijo? ¿Por qué la policía actúa en contra de las víctimas?
Why is the police department acting against the victims? Why are they parked across the street from my house on Elm Street? I didn't do anything wrong.
Muchas gracias a todos los que nos acompañan, de verdad. Les agradezco mucho, me los llevo a todos en el corazón. Crean que de verdad nos sentimos muy honrados con ustedes, con la prensa, con la persona acá, Luis Méndez, con el asambleísta Phil Ramos. Yo me siento muy agradecido y comprometido, no solamente con la comunidad hispana, sino con todos los presentes. Nos hace ser más humanos y sentir más el dolor humano. Estas personas, de una manera desinteresada, vienen acá. Quizás es el momento en el que ellos pueden descansar, pero han querido venir a estar con nosotros, acompañarnos en nuestro dolor. Muchas gracias a todos.
Thank you all. He acknowledged the Assemblyman and myself. More importantly, he asked everyone, he thanked everyone for accompanying him in the pain. It makes it more human, and it makes it more painful, but it makes it more human to bear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, both of you. Mil gracias. At this time, I would like to introduce an activist who has worked all over Long Island, out there whenever atrocities happen. She's out there to fight the good fight, speak truth to power, and it is a pleasure to have her here today to fight for this noble cause. Her name is Yocasta Arriaza.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Yocasta Arriaza y le puedo decir que I'm proud to be Latina. Yo estoy acá para acompañar a la familia Soto y también acompañar a mi gran amigo y asambleísta Phil Ramos junto a Luis Méndez, el fundador de Empower Your Professional. Yo soy madre de un muchacho de la misma o casi edad de Jorge Soto, el hijo de la señora Soto. No me imagino la vida sin mi hijo. No me imagino que alguien me lo mate y no se haga justicia y que me insulten poniéndome un carro de policía al frente de mi casa. En lo que le está pasando a la familia Soto, nos puede pasar a cualquiera de nosotros. No es justo. Una madre no puede estar viviendo esta pesadilla. Y yo demando justicia para la familia Soto. Muchas gracias.
I'll translate. Say good afternoon. My name is Yocasta Arriaza. I am here to support the Soto family. She's a mother of a U.S. veteran of exactly the same age as Jorge Soto. She cannot imagine a life without her son. She cannot imagine that somebody would kill her son and justice would not be served. and more importantly, to be insulted by a police car being put in front of her house while the perpetrator is running around free. And if it happens to the Soto family, it could happen to any Soto family, any Arriaza family, any Mendez family, any Ramos family. You get the point? It happens to the Latino and African American and people of color if we don't demand justice. No justice!
No peace.
Not justice, not peace.
Thank you, Yukasa. At this time, I would like to introduce our last speaker, a well-known leader, also in both counties, Suffolk and Nassau, from the Muslim community. We are so grateful to have the Muslim community stand side by side with the rest of the communities of color and speak out for this injustice. So I would like to proudly introduce at this time Kevin Shaquille.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Shaquille from Empowering Young Professionals of Long Island. There's a quote that comes from the Holy Quran that says, stand up for justice even if it is against you. I stand up here today as a Muslim, as a father, as a Pakistani American, and as a Uruguayan Hispanic American to say this is not right. This is not right at all. 2 months ago, we had to stand up here in a rally for Black Lives Matter. As you can see, the fight still goes on. And now this is affecting the Hispanic community. There's a saying that if you don't stand up for injustices for others, don't be surprised when nobody stands up for you. I'm standing up here today from the Soto family because this was wrong. I'm 28 years old. He was 25. That could have been me. That could have been my cousin. That could have been my neighbor. That could have been my friends. And that could have been you. Who do you want standing up for you when that happens for you? You would want us on your side. Demand justice. If you're watching this on the medias, demand justice. Don't let this slip under the rug. Don't let this just be another tale in the media, another soundbite. Stand up. Speak out about it. And again, thank you guys all for coming out today, and I'm so sorry to the Soto family because this is a tragedy that should have never happened, and we will not allow it to happen again. We will always come out and for the community. We will always come out for the community. So to those who think that they got away with this, you will never get away with this because we have a group of people here on Long Island who will stand up for justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. In closing, I just want to say that I will be requesting the Attorney General to investigate this department and in the Public Integrities Unit to see how this was handled. Have them ask the questions of why a family does not deserve a face-to-face conversation with the police for 14 days after they have lost their son. It's so sad. I can tell you as a police officer, I wish that the police departments would stand up on their 2 feet, and I can be proud of a noble profession, which it is a noble profession. But when we see the complicity in trying to hide something, in trying to explain the unexplainable, in trying to defend a person who has killed somebody, it just defies logic. In a police department where some of its members wanted Ted Nugent, the self-proclaimed racist, to be at their event, you would think that this department would want to do the right thing for communities of color and give a basic decency to a family. Understand that high speed, if I was driving down this street at 100 miles an hour and killed somebody, I would be arrested and my name would be put out from day one. That is a reckless homicide. We are seeking justice. We are seeking justice now. And if they think that this is just another case where the Hispanic community or communities of color is just going to walk away, we're going to speak for a few days and that's it, that's not going to happen. We are going to bring authorities down to look at what's happening here. And every time they violate the rights of people of color, there will be a reaction. The days of us being silent is over. And when they do good things, we will be out there to applaud them. Thank you all, to the press, to everybody who showed up here. ¿Qué es lo que queremos?
Justicia.
¿Cuándo?
Ahora.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Now, thank you. At this time, if the press has any further questions.
Yeah, can we actually ask you guys a couple more questions with the help of the translator, please?
Sure.
So,
How do you feel you've been treated so far by the Nassau Police
¿Cómo
Department?
se siente usted de la forma que lo ha tratado el Departamento de Policía del Condado de Nassau?
Decepcionado realmente. Decepcionado porque yo en lo personal, si puedo describir a la policía de Nueva York, yo le daría una medalla al mérito, porque se han portado en otras ocasiones de la mejor manera. Y en este momento yo siento que la camisa de la policía les ha quedado grande en el caso de mi hijo.
I am heartbroken. I am upset, but more importantly, I can tell you that on other occasions they have acted professionally, but this time their uniform is bigger than their capacity.
Do you feel like they're trying to help you?
¿Usted cree que le están ayudando? ¿Se siente que le están ayudando?
No en absoluto.
Absolutely not.
Do you feel like race is a factor in
¿Usted
this?
cree que porque es latino, por su raza?
No quisiera pensarlo así, porque todos somos seres humanos independientemente de nuestra descendencia. La policía está obligada a investigar y dar justicia imparcialmente.
I have a hard time thinking that that's the case because we're all humans, but the police is obligated to impart justice neutrally.
Can I ask you some questions too?
Claro, sí, sí. Dígale de una. Yo creo que
A little bit of the same of what I asked your husband, but how do you feel that the police department has been treating you throughout the last 2 weeks, throughout this investigation?
¿Cómo se siente en las últimas 2 semanas cómo le ha tratado la policía del condado de Nassau?
Indiferente.
Indifferent?
No he sentido que hay justicia para mi hijo.
I don't feel that there's justice for my son.
Sí siento que hay racismo.
I do feel racism.
Hay acoso de parte de la policía.
There is police harassment towards us.
Aparecen carros de policía frente a nuestra casa, cosa que nunca había pasado. Tengo 7 años de vivir ahí y nunca había entrado.
I have lived for 7 years in the same address that I'm now. Since the last 2 weeks, I've seen parked many times police officers with the marked vehicles of Nassau County. Never before that.
Tell me about your son.
Dígame algo de su hijo. Cuéntenos sobre él.
Mi hijo era un muchacho alegre. Todos los que lo conocieron le podrían decir que era un muchacho trabajador,
He was a hard worker, a happy young man,
con muchos sueños, con muchos proyectos que quedaron truncados.
a lot of dreams, and a lot going for him.
Creo que debería de preguntarle a todos los que le conocieron y se dará cuenta que mi hijo era un muchacho no problemático, no un muchacho que andaba en vicios.
He had no bad deeds. He did everything by the book. He was a great son and a great kid. You ask anyone in the community, they'll tell you the same.
What do you think should happen to the driver of the other boat?
¿Qué cree usted que le debería de pasar con la persona que mató a su hijo?
Que le caiga el peso de la ley.
Que le caiga todo el peso de la ley, que él, su dolor más grande creo que es el dinero, que se dé cuenta que en la cárcel no va a tener los privilegios que ha tenido aquí afuera. Y no importa quién lo esté escondiendo, de donde esté, mi Dios lo va a traer a justicia.
I want him to be brought to justice. I know God will serve justice upon him, but more importantly, I want him to feel the pain that I have, but I want to make sure that justice gets served and that the entire weight of justice may fall on him.
Can you tell us your name one more time, please?
Su nombre, por favor.
Rosa Monge de Soto.
Okay, Monge de Soto.
Monge, and then space DE, and then SOTO.
And then, is it Jorge or George? His friends were
Jorge.
Jorge,
Jorge.
Okay.
Jorge.
Thank
él
you.
era mi Tito. Nosotros le decíamos Tito.
Nickname.
The nickname was Tito.
Jorge Soto Monge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
I do.
Thank you.
We spoke to the police department and they said it actually was not a 5-mile-per-hour zone, that they did test for alcohol and drugs and that wasn't a factor, and that they have been getting information to the family as they've obviously learned it. So I'm just wondering what your take is on all of
You
that.
heard the family say right now that they never visited them.
But they said they've been in contact with them.
They
and
made a
have
phone
also-
call after I called the commissioner days later, I called the commissioner, I spoke to the chief of detectives, and they promised me that there would be a personal visit. They got a phone call the next day, and all that was told to them is we're investigating it. They said, why don't we have a police report? They said, because we have much more investigation to do. They asked why the person was not arrested. They said, because we feel it's just an accident. They predetermined that this was an accident before the investigation was even over, right? So their attempts to say we've contacted, technically, yeah, a phone call, a text is contacting. Is that the way you treat somebody who lost their family? It's obvious that the police department is just trying to, put up a smoke screen, trying to gaslight this. Basic decency, ma'am. Basic decency. You lost a life. Go to the house. Walk the family through the process. They didn't even know what department handled it. They had to go to Freeport. They had to go to the police and be told by Freeport that it was Nassau. They called Nassau. And that was the first contact they had with Nassau police. So Nassau police can try all their gaslighting they want. I was a police officer for 20 years and been loaned out to homicide on many cases. And I will tell you what normally happens. There's a death. Police have to, by rules and procedures, and look them up, they're the same rules and procedures in Nassau County. You should never make a death notification by phone. The protocols are you go to the family, you knock on the door, you don't even tell them at the door. You ask to come in. You ask the family to sit down, and you break the news to them as you do that. That's what you do as a decent human being to another decent human being. You don't call days later with non-answers to everything after the family has been seeking answers for a tragic death, for why their heart's pain at night over this loss. It's clear the injustice. So the police department can give all the excuses they want, but like I said, they got the wrong Puerto Rican assemblyman on the right day, because I know the procedure. I know what takes place, and basic humanity and logic would tell you that nobody, regardless of race, would want to be treated in this way if they lost a family member.
You said, just to follow up on that, you mentioned they told you that's not a 5 mile per hour, right away or speedway. Well, are you familiar with the location? It's right behind Cal Meadow Park. It's like a park on water. People go there and they fish. Imagine I drive at 60 miles an hour through a park. That's exactly what happened. So regardless of the speed limit, you have to be going so fast to split a boat in half and kill somebody, right? So even if he violated the speed limit, that's not what we're asking for. He kills somebody. It's a reckless homicide, plain and simple, regardless of the posted speed limit.
I want to add another circumstances. If you see the distance between that building and this building, multiply that by at least 2, and that's how wide this channel is. You're not talking a tight channel where he couldn't have. You have to try really hard to hit an individual boat. You have to be very reckless and non-attentive to hit an individual boat in that. This is not a tight canal where he had no way to do any evasive maneuvers at all. But the police department, again, just wants to twist themselves into a pretzel to justify them dropping the ball first off and defending somebody. But I ask the press to please dig deeper as to who that somebody is, and who Corey Schwartz is, and who he worked for, and who he's connected to politically, because this is at another level, even far and above white privilege.
I want to make one more point. There are no titles in both Nassau County Police Department. This is very important. There are no bilingual titles in the Nassau County Police Department or the Freeport Police Department that would have the capacity to have an officer come in and translate proficiently with a family. So far as we know, and you've noticed the language barrier with the families, no one with bilingual proficiency from the police department has interviewed the families. So it begs the question, how are they concluding this was an accident if they haven't spoken in the native language of the families and interview them and interview the witnesses who have a different version of the events, including people zigzagging by high speed playing a game of chicken?
To be clear, up until now, have they visited you at all in person?
Hasta hoy día te han visitado.
En persona, la policía.
No, en persona.
No, en absoluto. No.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Hearing it from the horse's mouth.
But they did speak to the perpetrator. The Caucasian perpetrator, they met with him in person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Gracias a ustedes.
Appreciate it for everything.
Gracias. Lo siento mucho.